Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over some thunderstorms which are going to be impacting the central United States. We already have an enhanced risk in parts of Texas and Oklahoma, and then we have a slight risk already up for much of the central plains through the Mississippi River Valley and then also into the Great Lakes as well. So we're going to be going over that, timing out these severe storms and giving you a general idea of what to expect. I think most of the main severe weather is going to stick into the central plains, but you may see a couple of rumbles of thunder, maybe a little bit of heavy rainfall in the Great Lakes as well. So let's get right into it, and let's start off with your current National Weather Service page. A few days ago, this was pretty much blank. We pretty much had nothing going on, but as you can see, especially in the west, we have quite a few watches and warnings currently in place. We have some high wind watches for parts of northwestern Arizona, southern Nevada, and eastern California. We have some freeze warnings in a little bit of California, as well as some winter weather advisories in Utah and a little bit of Nevada. That's in a higher elevation spot. We have some, I believe those are frost advisories in southwestern Oregon, and then we have some freeze watches in northwestern Nevada and northeastern California, and a few more winter storm watches in southern Montana. We have some red flag warnings in effect for parts of New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Colorado for fire danger. And then we have just a few dense fog advisories and air quality alerts scattered throughout the eastern U.S. Yesterday, we had a high temperature of 103 degrees in Rio Grande Village, Texas, with a low temperature of 10 degrees, actually, 35 miles west-southwest of Chote, Montana. We had a highest rainfall report of 5.58 inches in Byronville, Georgia, where they got, again, 5.5 inches of rain, and there were no snowfall reports yesterday. All of those winter-related warnings out in the west, that's because of the storm that we talked about in yesterday's video. So if you have any questions or you want to, if you want to see my forecast, actually I had my snowfall forecast in that video, just go check out yesterday's video. We cover that much more in depth. But if you do want a forecast, if you want a personal forecast, just leave a comment on this video and I'll respond within a couple hours of you posting that. So here's the severe weather for the Storm Prediction Center's page for the severe weather, and this will be for tomorrow. So this is Sunday, and you can see that we have an enhanced risk in effect for eastern Oklahoma and also northeastern Texas, with a slight risk which surrounds that. There will actually be a fairly high chance of tornadoes. We have a 10% risk, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in reality it is quite high. Normally you're only going to see a 2 or 5% risk in the green or brown color, but every once in a while we do see that 10% slight risk of tornadoes get issued. We also do have a 30% chance of hail and wind damage. So especially eastern Oklahoma probably will be the bullseye spot for this. I would say from Oklahoma City on eastward is where you're going to be dealing with the majority of the severe weather out of this one. Taking a look at the day 3 outlook, which is for Monday, so the start of the work week, and you can see that we have some slight risk up in parts of the Great Lakes. So that's going to cover a good portion of the lower peninsula in Michigan, northwestern Ohio, much of Indiana, a little bit of Kentucky, much of Illinois, and then a bit of Missouri and Wisconsin as well, with that slight risk of severe weather, and that would again be on Monday. They may issue an enhanced risk somewhere in here, although I think the main threat of severe weather is again down in Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas, but you will still see some amount of thunderstorm activity up into the Great Lakes. Here would be the day 4 outlook, which is for Tuesday, and you can see that we have a 15% risk of severe weather, which is equivalent to a slight risk. Again, this is the day 4 outlook, and you can see that we have in southern Nebraska, central and western Kansas, western Oklahoma, and northwestern Texas, another area of severe weather risk. So this is going to be the second wave of severe weather. So you're going to see the first wave move up into the Great Lakes, and then the next one will be right behind it, and that'll eventually move to the east as well. This is all being generated from that winter storm that we talked about yesterday. It's bringing in a lot of moisture through the central United States. and that is allowing some of these storms to really fire up. Also, regarding the winter storms and the forecast, I'm going to change up some of the colors, because I noticed that especially between 5 to 10 inches and 10 to 15 inches, they really look too similar with the blue colors. So I'm going to switch them up. I'm going to try and make them have a little bit more contrast, so that's a little bit easier to see. I got a couple comments about that on the previous one. And again, if you have any suggestions, if you want to go check out yesterday's video and just look at the map and see if there's anything that you would like to see changed, just let me know, because earlier on in the season it's much easier for me to change it. If we're in January, it's going to be harder because more people will be used to that color style by that point. So if you have any changes or suggestions for the winter forecast, just leave a comment down below, and it really only takes a few minutes for me to edit either the colors or the snowfall ranges. Anything you guys want, I'll be more than happy to do for those. So here's the simulated radar. This is the NAM model, so this is the North American model, and this is going to be timing this out from about Monday morning to about Tuesday night, maybe even into Wednesday. So we're starting off with some amount of severe storms into Oklahoma, but it's mainly just rain. You're not really seeing anything too well developed up to this point, but you want to watch out, especially over here, because you'll see some of this will start to fire up as we get into the later hours of Sunday night into Monday morning. So we now have that low pressure all the way up into central Oklahoma, and you can see that right along there is where we have some of that severe weather. So you're going to see pretty much a one and done type of line of storms. So you're not going to see a lot of different bands of storms behind each other and kind of training over the same area. You're really only going to be dealing with this one band. Maybe you get hit with another band on the western flank, but for the most part, it should be just one band of fairly heavy precipitation into central Oklahoma, and once you get rid of that, band of thunderstorms, you should be in the clear at least for another few hours. So this would be again by early on Monday morning. So we're talking about 1 or 2 in the morning, and you can see that we still have some of that rain and thunderstorm activity in eastern Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, western Missouri. If we move this on a little bit more, you can see that this continues to climb on further to the northeast. We have some more of those broken up type of thunderstorms in Missouri and especially Arkansas as well. These are not going to be nearly as potent as what's happening down in Oklahoma, where we had that line of storms, but you will still see probably a little bit of thunder and lightning out of this. Again, I'm thinking that if you live outside of this area right here, it's not going to be awfully severe, but you at least want to pay attention to it, and you want to at least keep an eye on it, because with these type of thunderstorms, you can always get some that overperform your expectations and kind of surprise with how potent they actually become. So this is going to continue to pull away to the northeast. You see it seems to dissipate, but as we get into Monday night and Tuesday morning, we are actually going to see a line of storms redevelop into parts of Indiana and Michigan, and this is where you have your next slight risk. So we have to downgrade to the lower resolution model because it's a little bit further out. It's past the 60-hour mark, so we have to again downgrade to the lower resolution. But either way, you can still see some semblance of severe weather into Indiana and Michigan, and that's going to pull away to the northeast. As we get into later Tuesday morning, this should be a somewhat severe line of storms. I'm thinking the bigger risk with this is going to be some damaging winds, heavy rain at times, but in terms of tornadoes, probably not too likely out of this band in particular, because we're not dealing with those kind of isolated storms that you kind of see sometimes where you have a few bigger bands of storms right next to each other. Instead, we have just one linear system like this, and because of that, you don't have room to really spawn up any tornadoes. So you would want to see kind of broken up pieces of stronger storms in order to see a tornado event, and we're not seeing that with these thunderstorms right here. So it looks like mainly a damaging wind and heavy rain threat from this band of storms right here. Taking a look at the amount of energy, which is going to be very important to the forecast, of course, because this is what's going to fuel the storms. You can see that by Sunday evening, we have a fairly good amount into eastern Oklahoma as well as northern Texas, so that should help out these bands of storms to develop a little bit more. And if we move to Monday evening and Tuesday morning, when they move into the Great Lakes, you can see that we do actually have about 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, which is sufficient enough to develop some thunderstorms, especially for this time of year. Here's a look at the high temperatures as well, which should fuel the storms. And you can see that we have highs in Texas and Oklahoma on Sunday that should be getting up into the low 80s, which should definitely help the storms out. You really only need to be above 65 degrees to get a thunderstorm. So when you're maybe 10 or 15 degrees above that mark, it's definitely not going to hurt the thunderstorms in any way. And if we look at for the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, and this area in general, you can see that we have lower high temperatures, so you're dealing with only in the upper 70s, but still that's well above what you would need to get some thunderstorms. And again, especially for this time of year, it doesn't take as much to develop some of these thunderstorms. Taking a look at the dew points, you can see that these are also going to be quite high. We're looking at about 65 to 70 over the southern plains, and then if we move up into the Great Lakes, you can see that we're dealing with about 65 to 70 degree dew points as well. Probably 65 to 68 would be a more accurate range with these dew points. So that is going to wrap it up for the severe weather side of things. Let me know if you guys did enjoy this video. If you want a personal forecast, just leave a comment down below. Again, I will be adjusting some of the colors on the snowfall forecast, just because I know it was a little bit difficult to see some of the differences between those colors, because some of the blues were a little bit similar. So I am going to switch that up. I'll be experimenting with it for the next few days. So whenever I do put out my next snowfall forecast, which I'm not sure if I'm going to do another one on the Rockies storm or not. I may do one tomorrow. I'm not sure. Depends on how strong these storms in the Central Plains end up being. But I'm definitely going to start to put out a few more of these snowfall forecasts, especially as we get further into the fall and winter months. I'm really excited for late October and early November, because that's usually when we get some of that snow, some of these smaller snowstorms into areas like the northern plains or New England. And I usually have a lot more fun tracking those smaller storms than I do with these big monster storms, because I'm able to go a little bit more in depth into things. I'm able to actually talk about the individual towns and what they should be expecting. So I do find that a little bit more interesting and a little bit more fun to make the snowfall forecasts on. So I can't wait to start getting into those. Again, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and turn on your notifications and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Goodbye.